Woman learns to hate in proportion as she forgets how to charm. These aren't my words. They belong to Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who dared to strip away the romantic illusions we've built around human nature. And today, we're going to explore one of his most controversial yet profound insights. What women truly desire isn't what society has taught you to believe. Picture this. You're the perfect modern man. You listen attentively, you share your feelings, you ask for consent. Before everything, you split the bill, you respect boundaries, you communicate openly about your needs. You've read all the articles, followed all the advice, done everything the dating coaches told you to do. And yet, you watch her eyes light up when the bartender ignores her, when her ex-boyfriend texts her at midnight, when the man who clearly doesn't give a damn about her feelings commands her attention in ways you never could. You've been told that women want kindness, sensitivity, emotional availability. You've been convinced that being agreeable, accommodating, and self-sacrificing will win their hearts. But what if I told you that this modern narrative has created more lonely, frustrated men than any other lie in human history? What if the very qualities you've been taught to cultivate are the exact reasons why you're alone? Nietzsche, writing in the 19th century, observed something that cuts through centuries of romantic propaganda. He saw that beneath the surface of social expectations lies a raw, primal truth about human attraction that makes most people uncomfortable. It's a truth that reveals why the nice guy finishes last, why emotional availability often breeds contempt, and why the men women claim to want are rarely the men they actually choose. The German philosopher lived through an era of rapid social change, watching traditional power structures crumble and new ideologies emerge. But unlike his contemporaries who sought to soften the harsh realities of human nature, Nietzsche chose to confront them head-on. He understood that true wisdom comes not from comforting lies but from uncomfortable truths. Think about the last time you saw genuine attraction in action. Not the polite interest, not the forced smiles, not the obligatory dates, but real, electric, undeniable attraction. Was it sparked by negotiation, by asking permission, by carefully explaining feelings and intentions? Or was it sparked by something entirely different? By confidence, by mystery, by the presence of a man who didn't need anything from anyone? This isn't about misogyny or manipulation. It's about understanding the fundamental drives that govern human behavior. Because once you see past the social conditioning, once you recognize the patterns that Nietzsche identified over a century ago, everything changes. The question is, are you brave enough to look into this mirror? What you're about to discover will challenge everything you've been taught about relationships, attraction, and what it means to be a man in the modern world. Some of you will resist these ideas. Others will recognize them as the missing piece that explains years of confusion and disappointment. We live in an age of comfortable lies, where truth is filtered through the lens of what we wish were real, rather than what actually is. But Nietzsche refused to play that game. He looked at human nature with the cold eye of a scientist and the passionate heart of an artist, and what he found changed everything we thought we knew about desire, power, and the eternal dance between masculine and feminine energy. Friedrich Nietzsche wasn't just another academic philosopher locked away in an ivory tower, debating abstract concepts with no real-world application. He was a man who lived through profound personal struggles, chronic illness that left him bedridden for days, social isolation that bordered on complete alienation, unrequited love that cut him to the bone, and the eventual collapse of his sanity that would define his final years. This intimate acquaintance with suffering gave him a unique lens through which to examine human nature, particularly the complex, often brutal dynamics between men and women. Born in 1844 in Prussia, Nietzsche witnessed the birth of modern psychology and the slow death of traditional values. He saw how the emerging industrial age was reshaping not just society, but the very nature of human relationships. While others celebrated progress, while others cheered the dawn of modernity, Nietzsche asked the harder questions. What are we losing? What drives us beneath the veneer of civilization? What happens when we strip away the comforting stories we tell ourselves? His personal life was marked by a series of failed romantic pursuits that would have broken a lesser man. He proposed to Lou Salome, a brilliant Russian intellectual who was everything he thought he wanted in a woman. Intelligent, independent, capable of matching his philosophical intensity. She rejected him, not once but decisively, choosing instead his friend Paul Ray. He watched these two people, both supposedly inferior to him in intellect and vision, find in each other what he desperately sought but could never attain. But here's what makes Nietzsche's insight so devastating and so accurate. He didn't retreat into bitterness or blame. He didn't write angry letters or blame women for being shallow or society for being corrupt. Instead, he used his pain as a scalpel to dissect the mechanisms of human desire. He recognized that his rejections weren't random cruelties. They followed patterns, laws as predictable as physics, as observable as the movement of planets. These experiences became laboratories for understanding the deeper currents of attraction and rejection. Every unrequited feeling, every moment of being overlooked, every instance of watching another man succeed where he had failed, all of it became data. And from this data, he constructed a theory of human nature that was both personally painful and universally illuminating. Nietzsche introduced the concept of the will to power, the fundamental drive that motivates all living things. This isn't just about political or physical dominance. It's about the deep human need to create, to overcome, to assert one's existence against the chaos of the world. It's the force that makes a plant grow toward the sun, that makes a wolf hunt, that makes a human being strive to become more than they currently are. And he understood that this drive manifests differently in men and women, creating the eternal dance of attraction and resistance that plays out in every interaction between the sexes. Men tend to express their will to power through achievement, creation, conquest. Women, he observed, express theirs through influence, through the ability to inspire and direct masculine energy, through the power to choose and reject. Where others saw romance, Nietzsche saw power dynamics. Where others saw love, he saw the collision of competing wills. Where others saw gender roles, he saw evolutionary strategies playing out in drawing rooms and bedrooms across Europe. He understood that attraction isn't a feeling, it's a recognition. It's one will to power recognizing and responding to another. This perspective reveals why the modern approach to dating and relationships fails so spectacularly. We've been taught to suppress the will to power, to apologize for our strength, to negotiate for desire. But Nietzsche understood that attraction isn't a negotiation. It's a recognition of power. You can't convince someone to be attracted to you any more than you can convince them to be hungry or tired or afraid. The tragedy of modern men is that they've been taught to hide their power, to minimize their strength, to apologize for their ambition. They've been told that these qualities are toxic, dangerous, unwelcome. But in doing so, they've made themselves invisible to the very people they're trying to attract. Here's where Nietzsche's insight becomes truly radical, truly dangerous too. Everything we've been taught. He recognized that what women say they want and what they actually respond to exist in two completely different universes. This isn't about deception. Women aren't lying when they describe their ideal partner. This is about the fundamental difference between conscious desires and unconscious attractions, between what the rational mind thinks it wants and what the deeper self actually responds to. Consciously, women might seek safety, stability, emotional connection. These are real needs, born from both social conditioning and genuine human vulnerability. A woman living in the modern world faces real challenges: economic, uncertainty, physical vulnerability, social pressures that men simply don't experience. So of course she would consciously desire a partner who offers security, who listens to her problems, who makes her feel safe and understood. But unconsciously, at the level where true attraction operates, they're drawn to something entirely different. The demonstration of power, the presence of strength, the energy of a man who exists for his own purposes. This isn't a conscious choice. It's a biological imperative that runs deeper than rational thought. Nietzsche called this the difference between the tame and the untamed aspects of human nature. Society encourages tameness. It's safer, more predictable, easier to manage. The tame man follows rules, seeks approval, adjusts his behavior based on feedback. He's the perfect citizen, the ideal employee, the man who never causes problems. But the untamed spark, the wild energy that refuses to be domesticated, is what ignites genuine desire. Think about the men who seem to effortlessly attract women. Are they the ones constantly seeking approval, asking, "Is this okay?" before every action? Are they the ones who change themselves to please others, who mold their personalities around what they think women want? Or are they the ones who remain centered in their own mission, their own vision, their own power? Consider the archetypal figures that have captivated women throughout history. The artist who creates beauty regardless of whether anyone understands it. The entrepreneur who builds empires while others play it safe. The leader who stands by his principles even when everyone disagrees. What these men share isn't kindness or emotional availability. It's an unshakable sense of their own purpose and worth. This creates what Nietzsche understood as the fundamental paradox of modern relationships. The more you try to please a woman, the less attractive you become. The more you seek her approval, the less worthy you appear of having it. The more you sacrifice yourself for her happiness, the less she respects the man she's with. It's not conscious. She doesn't wake up thinking, "I want to be with someone who ignores my needs." But attraction operates below the level of conscious. Joyce, it's not that women are manipulative or cruel. They're responding to evolutionary programming that runs deeper than conscious thought. For thousands of years, the men who could protect, provide, and lead were the ones whose genes survived. The women who chose these men were the ones whose children thrived. These preferences don't disappear because we live in apartments instead of caves, because we have dating apps instead of tribal gatherings. But here's the crucial distinction that most men miss. This isn't about being aggressive or domineering. True power, as Nietzsche understood it, is self-possession. It's the ability to remain centered in your own frame, to pursue your own goals, to maintain your own standards regardless of external pressure. It's not about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself. The weak man seeks validation from women. He needs their approval to feel worthy, their attention to feel valuable, their presence to feel complete. The strong man offers his strength as a gift, not as a bargaining chip. He doesn't need anything from anyone, which paradoxically makes him infinitely more attractive than the man who needs everything from everyone. The weak man changes himself to fit her world, constantly adapting, constantly performing, constantly seeking signs that he's doing it right. The strong man invites her into his world, and she follows because that world has gravity, purpose, direction. It's not empty space seeking to be filled. It's a complete universe with its own laws and logic. This is why the nice guy strategy fails so consistently. It's not that kindness is unattractive. It's that kindness without strength is merely weakness disguised as virtue. It's not that caring is wrong. It's that caring more about her happiness than your own integrity makes you fundamentally unattractive. So what does this mean for you? How do you embody the kind of strength that Nietzsche identified as genuinely attractive? How do you become the man who doesn't just understand these principles intellectually, but lives them so completely that attraction becomes inevitable? It starts with a fundamental shift in perspective, a shift so radical that most men will never make it. Stop seeking to be chosen and start choosing yourself. The man who understands Nietzsche's insights doesn't wake up wondering how to please women. He doesn't check his phone hoping for her text, doesn't plan his day around her schedule, doesn't adjust his opinions based on her reactions. He wakes up wondering how to build something meaningful, how to pursue his mission, how to become the fullest expression of his potential. Women become attracted to him not because he's trying to attract them, but because he's become genuinely attractive, a man with purpose, direction, and unshakable self-respect. This requires what Nietzsche called self-overcoming. the continuous process of transcending your limitations, your fears, your need for external validation. It's the daily practice of becoming more than you were yesterday, not for anyone else's approval, but for the sheer joy of growth itself. It means developing the courage to disappoint others in service of your own integrity. It means saying no when saying yes would compromise your standards, even when that no costs you opportunities, relationships, social acceptance. Think about what this looks like in practical terms. The average man modifies his behavior based on a woman's reactions. If she seems upset, he immediately wonders what he did wrong and how he can fix it. If she's distant, he becomes more attentive, more accommodating, more available. If she tests him with drama or conflict, he tries to smooth things over, to find compromises, to keep the peace. But a man who embodies Nietzsche's strength responds entirely differently. When she's upset, he remains calm and centered, offering support without taking responsibility for emotions that aren't his. When she's distant, he respects that distance and continues pursuing his own goals rather than chasing after her attention. When she tests him, he maintains his frame, his standards, his sense of self regardless of the immediate consequences. True strength isn't about physical dominance or emotional manipulation. It's about psychological sovereignty. It's the ability to remain unmoved by tests, unshaken by drama, uncompromised by pressure. When a woman sees that her moods don't control your mood, that her approval isn't necessary for your happiness, that your life has meaning beyond her presence in it, that's when genuine attraction begins. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. The Nietzschean man loves deeply, but he loves from a position of strength rather than need. He offers his presence as a gift rather than seeking her presence as a drug. He's genuinely outcome independent because his sense of self doesn't depend on any single relationship, any single person's opinion, any single external validation. Consider the difference between neediness and desire. The needy man wants a woman because he feels incomplete without her. His desire comes from lack, from emptiness, from the hope that she will fill something missing in his life. The strong man desires a woman because he recognizes her value and wants to share his complete life with her. His desire comes from abundance, from fullness, from the joy of having something valuable to offer. Nietzsche understood that most people live their entire lives as slaves to the opinions of others, constantly performing roles they think will win approval. They become actors in their own lives, playing characters designed to please their audience rather than expressing their authentic selves. But the truly powerful person, the one who embodies authentic attraction, has transcended this need. He's not performing masculinity. He is masculine. He's not seeking power. He is powerful. This transformation requires brutal honesty about your current state. You must acknowledge the ways you've been seeking validation, the compromises you've made, the times you've abandoned your principles for the promise of acceptance. You must see clearly how your need for approval has made you weak, how your desire to please has made you unattractive, how your fear of rejection has prevented you from ever being truly chosen. But once you see these patterns clearly, once you understand the game you've been unconsciously playing, you can choose to play a different game entirely. You can choose to build a life so meaningful, so purposeful, so aligned with your deepest values that external validation becomes irrelevant. You can choose to develop skills, create value, pursue excellence not because anyone is watching, but because excellence is its own reward. The brutal truth is that most men will never embody this kind of strength. They'll continue to seek shortcuts, to look for techniques and tricks, to believe that the right words or gestures can substitute for fundamental personal development. They'll remain trapped in the cycle of seeking validation from the very people they're trying to attract, never understanding that this seeking itself is what makes them unattractive. But for those willing to do the deeper work, to build genuine competence, to develop real strength, to create meaningful purpose, the rewards extend far beyond romantic success. You become the kind of man who doesn't just attract women, but attracts the right woman. You become someone worth choosing because you've first chosen yourself. You become attractive not through manipulation or performance, but through the authentic expression of your highest potential. As Nietzsche wrote, "What does not destroy me makes me stronger." The path to authentic attractiveness isn't comfortable. It requires you to face uncomfortable truths about yourself and others, to abandon comforting illusions, to take full responsibility for your life and choices. But on the other side of that discomfort lies something most men never experience: the profound satisfaction of being chosen, not for what you pretend to be, but for who you actually are. This is the ultimate liberation. When you no longer need anyone's approval, everyone wants to give it to you. When you no longer seek validation, you become inherently valuable. When you no longer chase, you become worth pursuing. This isn't a game or a strategy. It's a way of being that transforms not just your relationships, but your entire existence.